Good evening, good evening, good evening. Tonight we have Jerry E. Isenhour Sr., who is going to give us a report from North Carolina where the damage is outrageous. But Jerry E. Isenhour serves as the lead coach for CVC Success Group and the leading consultant for Chimney and Venting Consultants. Both are divisions of CVC Coaching, which he owns. You see my cozy fireplace behind me? Jerry makes the whole world cozy because he is a recognized expert in the field of chimney sweep services, chimney repair, service, solid fuel installations, industry standard of care, and other facets involving the proper and improper operation of a chimney service company. Yes, all those who take care of your chimneys around the entire United States of America. Hearth product retail sales and hearth product installation companies. And Mr. Isenhour is also a certified speaker, teacher, and coach by the John Maxwell Group and our friend Jeffrey Gittimore. And he's written 5 books by himself, and I read one of them just the other day. Eric's going to pop it up. It was just an amazing story of coming back from chaos to reinventing himself. And I highly recommend it. It's also available on Amazon and Audible with his other 5 books. And he co-wrote 5 other books with interesting people for collaboration. But right now, let's invite Jerry to the screen and find out what's happening in the Carolinas and all the eastern states there. Thank you, Jerry, so much for joining us today.
Good evening, Cynthia. I appreciate the invitation. Look forward to having this sit down. We had to set this a couple weeks for my travel schedule. So, hey, been looking forward to this for a couple weeks now.
Woohoo! Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I'm all warm and cozy here, and I'm worried about the rest of the people down by you being warm and cozy. And hi to Eric B. Flournoy. God's blessings to you and to all of our friends and neighbors who are impacted by the hurricane.
Yeah, Cynthia, this is really a terrible, horrible, horrific situation that's going on in the western part of North Carolina, the upstate of South Carolina, and the eastern part of Tennessee. This storm is one that they're calling of biblical proportions, and it has completely wiped out some of the communities up in the mountains. It's going to be, there's a lot of deaths, and there's going to be more as they do their search and rescues. It's really impressive, though, to see how the volunteers have stepped up to the plate because they are doing airlifts into this area because in some of these areas, they're only reachable by helicopter. So there are both planes and helicopters that are flying supplies in there and also doing these search and rescue missions because some of these areas are so remote. You're not going to get to them because roads are washed out. They're gone. Bridges have been washed out. They're gone. And Interstate 40 between North Carolina and Tennessee, there's a stretch of this that's completely gone. So there's no interstate traffic right now from North Carolina and Tennessee. You've got a detour up into Virginia or south into South Carolina and Georgia to get into Tennessee at this point. So it's a horrible, horrible situation. We've got people that are up there. They have no food, no water. Their drugs are running out, prescription drugs. They don't have formula for their babies. It's truly heart-wrenching when you look at this. It's tough. It is very, very tough. I know every morning since it's gone on, I actually felt guilty taking a hot shower, drinking a cup of coffee, having a hot meal, knowing these people of what they're going through right now. It's unreal.
Our hearts go out to them. Find out what you can do in your community. Find out what we can do.
Yeah, the biggest thing is, there's a lot of relief organizations, Red Cross. One that I'm supporting is called Operation Airlift, and I made a pretty good contribution today to this. And that's one of the volunteer groups that's flying these medical supplies and food and other things up into the mountains. And they are transporting tons, around 20 tons a day of supplies that they're taking into the mountains to these people. It's also heart-wrenching when you see some of these people that are doing it and they're saving small children. I watched one pilot on social media today, and he was talking about an 11-day-old baby that they had rescued out of there. But like I said, people don't know where their family members are. The communications are down. And now Elon Musk has donated a lot of Skylinks, so they're getting them into there. Cell towers are getting back up. And to be honest with you, if you've ever been in Western North Carolina, it's probably going to be years before this mess is cleaned up. This is a Katrina scale storm.
So anyone out there, if you have any tidbits that we can put up on our podcast to let people know how they can reach out and be a service. Meanwhile, every little prayer helps, because speaking to God always helps.
Yes, it does. And I think that's the main thing. And, to have hope for these people, because it is, like I said, I know this country. I know I spent many weekends in the North Carolina mountains. If you've heard of Lake Lure, my family had a vacation home there when I was a kid. And right now, the entire town of Chimney Rock has been demolished, and it is floated down the Broad River, and it's floating on top of Lake Lure right now. Lake Lure, to give you a little background, did you ever watch the movie Dirty Dancing?
Yes.
That's where Dirty Dancing was filmed, was on Lake Lure.
Wow.
And Firestarter, there's been a lot of movies filmed on that lake. So if you can contribute to the relief efforts, it'd be great. But your prayers, your thoughts, are certainly appreciated at this time, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. www.nc.gov disaster-relief-fund-FAQS for facts, answers, questions. Please reach out. You're going to have a lot of chimneys to go fix. All your people are going to be very busy.
Yes, it is. That will definitely be, but that's the bad side. A lot of these there's going to be businesses that are wiped out in this. I don't know what some of these people are going to do. You don't think about flood insurance, so that's the problem. Your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover you from flood loss, and that's the big thing up there. So most of these people do not have flood insurance, so they don't have an insurer to fall back upon. You look depressed. I'm sorry if I depressed you, Cynthia.
I'm sorry. Let's get back to when they can get next to their chimney and be cozy, and everyone that can see them for the holidays can be grateful that they're alive and there with them as they snuggle up next to their fireplace. Because Jerry, you've had a long and successful career. What initially drew you to the chimney industry?
Well, I was actually working in a print shop. I was an offset pressman was my occupation, and I worked at night. Well, when you're running a printing press, to be honest with you, it's kind of boring. Once you get it set up and it's running, there's not a whole lot to do. You're putting paper in, you put a big stack of paper in one end, it goes through the print press, comes out the other end, and you got a big stack of printed up material on the other side. And the presses I ran, they ran sheets of paper that were about 40 inches wide, anywhere from 30 to 40 inches wide, and 25, 30 inches long. So that was the size paper on the printing presses that I ran most of the time. So anyway, I worked the second shift, and the guy that ran the machine next to me, he brought in a Mother Earth News. And anyway, I just went over and grabbed it one night, and I was leafing through it, and I saw this ad in there. It said, "Hey, become a chimney sweep." Now, this was early 80s. And I started reading the article, and it started telling me about, and send here for information. And the company that ran the ad, the company's name was August West Systems. So I got home and I sent off for some information, and they sent me some information back. It included this phonograph record. It was a 45 RPM phonograph record, okay? Because we didn't have cassette tapes in those days. We didn't have CDs. So they sent this 45 RPM record, and it told you all about the world of chimney sweeping, how to get into it, how much money you would make, and all that. So it intrigued me. So they were running a sale on the total, everything you needed to operate a chimney sweep business, all your tools, all your equipment, and it was usually $17.99. They were running a special at $14.99. I said, okay. So I went to the bank, got a personal loan, $5,000 back in those days, which that's what we did back in those days. We got personal loans and borrowed the $5,000 and ordered my equipment and outfitted a vehicle. And then from that point, got into the chimney sweep industry. And I was unleashed on the citizens of North Carolina and Charlotte specifically as a very uneducated guy sweeping chimneys without any idea of what I was doing at that point.
You were always a very good entrepreneur. You always had 2 or 3 jobs going on your entire time until you settled in on this nice, warm, and cozy opportunity to bring everyone happiness and joy.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I worked in print shops and I had a small family. I had a family, I had 3 kids. So I always worked a second job. So I was always setting up little businesses on the side. One of them was I did a lawn care business at one time. Also, one time, basically collected sheet metal, went around pickup truck and would find sheet metal wherever it was, different types of metal, take it to a recycling center, and I would sell that metal to the recycling centers, aluminum, steel, copper, whatever we could find. And that's how I supplemented my income to raise 3 kids because their mother didn't work. So I had to support the whole family myself because we were a one income household.
And you were young too. You got married young.
Got married very, very young. As I said, I think I was 19 when I got married. So heading out on my own, probably way too young, had no idea what I was doing in life. But yeah, that was quite a few years ago at this point.
And you're still together.
Still together. Yep. I'm 71 years old now. So, hey, still going at it. People say, when are you going to retire? But to be honest with you, if you're having fun at what you do at your job, then every day's a holiday for you. And I truly enjoy what I've been doing for the last 15 years. So that's where we're at here. And I love what I do. And I love my clients today.
Did we originally meet on the Ken Walsh or Jeffrey Gittimore's mastermind or the 959s?
We met on the Ken Walls and Ken Walls weekly open meeting that we have because we all were in there learn. We had all signed in the Ken Walls group to learn about how to use StreamYard and how to do broadcasting.
And look at us now.
Yep.
Oh, you've authored several books. What inspired you to start writing, and which book holds the most significance for you?
Well, the first book, which was Chaos to Reinvention, you showed a picture of it a while ago. Let me get a copy of it over here in front of me. But my first book, it was the reason I wrote the first book was actually therapy because I went through so many challenges in life. And one of my clients said, Jerry, you need to write a book. You've got a story. So I decided to put it down because I'd been through so many problems in life. And that's where we came up with the name of Chaos Reinvention, because the chaos that I went through at that time in 2008, 2009, 2010 was truly chaos in my personal life. Okay. So anyway, that's why I wrote Chaos Reinvention, which was the first one. But the other things were, I've always done a lot of articles. I've always done a lot of videos. I've done a lot of training. So what I wanted to do was kind of put my ideas down and get them documented in books. So I started, at this point, I've authored 10 books, 5 of them with other people as a co-author, but then I've done 5 books that are singularly me that put it out, because sometimes I do write books with other people. We do a collaborative effort to put the books together. But it's just been a way, it's part of the legacy I want to leave. We're not going to be around forever. So I kind of like my thoughts, my words, my processes to stick around where people can access them because, hey, we're not going to be here forever.
It's exactly true. None of us are getting out of here alive. So
Nope.
be kind. Write your book
Yeah.
now. Start your legacy, because Jerry Isenhour has a whole legacy of being in the 40 years experience in the chimney service industry. How's it evolved since you became?
Well, it changed tremendously. Like I said, I've actually been into it now since I entered this 43 years ago. And I operated a chimney service business, a manufacturing company, and a retail store up until 2010. In 2010, I went through a lot of things in my life that changed. And it was like, okay, now you got to find something new to do. And this is what the book Chaos the Reinvention is all about. Because basically, I had crashed bad. Now it's time to start over, start something new in life. And that's the story of Chaos to Reinvention. It tells you about my crash, how the crash happened, what went on at this point, what it was like, and how did I recover from it. But that's when I went into coaching because, I've been through this really down point in my life, Cynthia, and I've been training for years, had successful businesses for years. And so people are aware back in 2008, 2009, we had a recession in this country and banks were calling people's loans. And that's what they did to me. I was basically funded by the bank, and the bank came one day and said, "Hey, you got 10 days to get to pay all our money back." It's like, wait a minute, I don't have that much money. And they were really serious. And
Mm.
so I was faced with, I had to file personal bankruptcy and I had to start all over again. And I was really at a down point in my life. Well, about this time, I had been heavily involved in associations and educational foundations with the chimney service industry. I've been president of the National Chimney Sweep Guild for 6 years. I was also president of the Chimney Safety Institute of America for 6 years, very widely known. And a really good friend of mine, his name was John Meredith. I got invited, I went to a convention and didn't know it, but they were actually giving me an award that night. It was the second time they had ever given what they called the Lifetime Achievement Award, which is the highest honor you can get in the industry. And I was the second person to ever win it. So that night, John Meredith, who's a really super friend of mine going back into the 80s, said, "I want to have breakfast with you and Cheryl in the morning." Cheryl's my wife. So we met John for breakfast. He said, "What are you going to do now, Jerry?" I said, "John, I don't really know. I'm trying to figure that out myself." And he said something to me. He said, "Jerry, these guys need you. You need to become a coach." I said, "Say what?" He said, "You need to become a coach because you have helped so many people for so many years, and these guys need you. That's what you need to start doing." So that was in 2010, and it kind of lit a fuse in me. And that's when I started to do my coaching that I do, that I still do today, and work all over the country with people. Like you live in Maryland, I'm around you. I've had clients all around you in the upper Maryland area, and Baltimore, Pasadena, some of these different places, Anne Arundel County,
Yeah.
Waldorf, Maryland, Prince Frederick, Maryland, all those
Oh, he
places
knows our
familiar
state
with you?
well.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm around you quite a bit. So anyway, but working with people across the country, and we have processes that we work, and that's a lot of where the rest of the books have come from. Is what I've learned in these years of working with these companies, why companies fail, what do they need to do, how do they build their systems, how do they build their marketing, how do they build their numbers, how do they properly price. All these things are what we work with today.
Which works not only in the chimney service area, but in all of your businesses, whatever they may be. A good foundation, it will take you far. So coaching for CVC coaching, he can do anything. It's just
Correct.
his specialty, his passion.
Right. The system we use is we start with the client, we go in and we spend 2 days in the business, and we do a very in-depth SWOT analysis of business. We look at what is the strengths, what's the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, what are the threats, what are the fears of the business, where does the client want to take this business to? And after we complete that, we then write a strategic plan up, analyzes this. It's about 100 pages long, and then we present that to the client, and then we can work with them from a coaching aspect to help them get to this. Or they say, "Hey, we can take it on our own," or they can also say, "That's the worst money I ever spent in my life. I wish I'd have never had you come in here, but I've never had anybody do that to me yet."
Of course not. Dan Armstrong says, "My thoughts and processes will still hang around."
Yeah, yeah, that's
And then he
exactly
goes,
right.
"Say what? Love it."
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges you face leading all your various businesses?
Well, everybody's an individual. And everybody's business is, that's what you've got to get out of them. What do they want the business to be? How big do they want the business to be? What do they want to do in the business? What's their exit plan for the business? How many years are they going to spend in this business? What's their profit picture? Are they getting a decent profit for this? Are they earning a decent living in this? Are they paying their people at a comparable wage to other companies in the market area in all areas of home service? Are they offering the benefits? So helping companies get their stuff organized and chase it and turning their, what we call it is, we're taking your business dreams and turning it into your business realities. That's what it's all about. That's what we work with.
What role did leadership play in your success, and how do you define great leadership? You've got it. How do you spread it into these individual businesses?
Okay. Great leadership is defined as where you can affect people in such a way that they do what you want them to do because they want to do it, not because you're forcing them to do it. Getting them to buy into the culture that you're trying to develop, getting you to buy into where the business is going to go and where their part is of that. So, what you've got to do is, as a leader, you always have to be looking at yourself. How do you light a fire in a person and not under a person? That's leadership.
That's a good analogy too. I like that one.
Okay.
Excellent. 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 You've coached so many individuals. What common traits do your successful leaders possess when you're finished with them, or when they're already have them, or how do you move them to the next step?
Successful leaders have to recognize that this is the hard part, that if the business sucks, it's their fault because they allowed it to happen. They
Mm,
allowed it to happen. So, this is where a successful leader comes in, of learning how to analyze and take the business to where they want it to go, and to having a team of people that complements them. Because often what you're doing is in business, I got something here on my desk that I'll show you here. You know what those are?
handcuffs.
Handcuffs. And see, this is the problem. Often business owners, managers are handcuffed because they have a fear that if someone leaves, the business is going to deteriorate, the business is going to go away. So this is where you got to develop the systems, because the problem is, no, very few people are going to work a lifelong career in the same business. Yeah, that's a good one, Grace. Are there as many successful women leaders as there are men? Certainly. I don't see why there's any. Why? My question back to Grace would be, why should a woman not be as good as a leader as a man? Realistically, if you look at it, I have seen women that can be very strong leaders.
We have a lot of them. We
Yes,
are amazing.
that's correct. You don't become a great leader by presenting yourself as a weak woman. You present yourself as a strong woman with the right personality, with the right culture, with the ability to speak to other people and not have fear of other people of expressing your ideas.
Well, Grace feels that the women have been held down for so long that we still don't have equal pay. So we have to own the business ourselves and
That's where you have to go out and own it yourself. I mean, I know women that are very successful that run home service businesses, HVAC companies, plumbing companies, chimney service companies, gutter companies, all kinds. I deal with home service companies, but I see a lot of women that excel, and they are better leaders sometimes than their husbands are.
Very good question there.
Yeah.
Yes. You've coached so many individuals. What common traits do successful leaders, men or women, possess?
Number one is confidence. Confidence. Can I do this? The lack of being easily overwhelmed. The lack of being able to be easily overwhelmed. The ability to listen to mentors, to listen to coaches, the ability to be able to learn from people that have done it before you. You know, you got to be a person that hangs out with people that are successful and more successful than you. They say that you will be the result of the five people that are closest to you. You're going to take on their personality. So a successful leader has got to hang out with other leaders. He's got to learn from other leaders, or she. When I say the word he, don't think I'm talking just men, because Grace, it does include women. Okay. I respect women as leaders probably more than anybody else. Am I a diehard conservative? Yes, but that doesn't mean that I don't respect women. And some of my best friends and colleagues are of the female persuasion. Ken
Look,
Wall
say
said, "Hey,
hello. Hey, Ken. Woohoo. We were just talking that we met on Ken Walls, and Eric put up, it's in the course, Jerry.
there you go, there you go." That's a Ken Walls quote to me. It's in the course.
Yes, because Jerry is so good. He was taking every class and finding him, and he would go, Ken. Ken would look at him and go, Jerry, it's in the course.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fun with that.
That is probably the number one quote that has stuck in that group ever since I got into it.
We love it. We love it. We love it. And guess what? Sometimes we all went to look it up too. We all have to be
Yeah.
more involved because there is such good information in that course. Yes.
Yeah, but sometimes Ken will start answering people's questions, and in our calls, it's like, wait a minute, you always tell me it's in the course. Why are you answering the questions for the other people? Okay.
Well, some of them are new. He has to teach them, because we all want to know, because this whole
I was new at that point. Okay.
yeah, you're on the cutting edge. Tell us more about CVC Success Group.
Okay. What would you like to know?
Okay, how is Ken Walls in there?
Nope. Ken is not a member of my team. We have several people. My wife I'm certified by John Maxwell as a coach, and also by Gitomer as a sales coach. My wife is certified by the Ziegler Corporation, and she is also a certified disc analysis consultant. So she works in the company. And she runs our hiring division. We actually do a lot of interviews for companies. We interview their new people, and that's where she spends all of her time today. She owned a factory that was called IBD Outdoor Rooms that she had run for a number of years. She still has some involvement with it, but she sold that company earlier this year, but she's still affiliated and does work with that company as part of her exit plan out. We have other people that work in the areas of finance. We have independent CFOs that work as fractional CFOs, because a lot of people need a CFO, but they don't need a full-time CFO in the company. So we have CFOs. We also have software consultants that work in the company that can help our clients work on the software systems that they need and help them put their software programs working. Some of these are pretty intricate that the home service companies are using these days, and you about have to have a consultant in order to help navigate through implementing these new softwares.
How do you help business owners transform their operations and improve the profitability?
Number one, waste. You got to figure out, and that's one of the books I read, and I got some books up here I pulled down for it. So waste is one of the things that we look at really heavy. And this is the problem. Waste occurs in many, many businesses, and it's just like sand through an hourglass where the money is slipping right through your fingertips all the time. And waste is a big one, because the problem is, for every dollar of waste, you've got to have so many dollars of sales to make up for it. And that's going to be dependent upon what your net profit is at the end of the year. Such as, if you're sitting at a 5% net profit on a business, then for every dollar of waste that you produce, it's going to take $20 of sales to take care of it. Excuse me. If you have a 10% net, then it's going to take $10 of sales to compensate for every dollar of waste. If you had a 20% net profit, it's only going to take $5 of sales to compensate for every dollar of waste. So a lot of times, figuring out and developing waste tracking programs, because in a business, Usually your waste is going to be 95% man hours, time that is wasted, that's non-productive, and 5% is going to be materials. So you've got to track what is happening and build the systems in the business, the standard operating procedures where the business is not suffering in a large amount of waste. Our goal is to get the waste below 1% of the gross revenue of the company. 1%. And we often find companies are producing 15 to 20% waste factors, excuse me, which eats up their profit picture tremendously. So we work with that. We work with them in developing their training systems. We work with them in developing their office staffs to operate at the highest level. We work with them to develop their standard operating procedures because we want to detail and document everything that the business does so it can be duplicated, so you're not held hostage with those handcuffs to an employee where you have only one person that knows how to do that task. You got to have documented systems so you can bring new people in the business where they can become productive members of your team. All that makes sense?
Absolutely perfect.
Yeah. So, but we find that getting people's profit up, that's a big one. We also work towards getting people where they are not bank funded. We want to see businesses that build cash reserves in the business that when they have to buy a new truck, they got to make expenditures. They're not having to go to banks and borrow money. Rather, they have the money in their reserves to make the purchases they need to do. But to do that, you've got to have net profit and you've got to build those cash reserves.
Very smart. Can you talk about the experience as a sales coach and the importance of effective sales techniques to bring in those reserves in any business?
Well, the sales, yeah, right. Sales is all important. And we're using a new system now called Rilla. And Rilla is artificial intelligence to where the sales presentation is recorded and then it is transcribed and it's analyzed by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence runs a tracking system in the conversation and it monitors a lot of things. Number one, did we cover all the key points in the presentation, such as did we cover financing? Did we cover our company story? Did we cover reviews? How did we put this all together? Then it's also going to monitor the conversation that the salesperson has. For effective sales, what we're finding out from data analysis is the salesperson should speak approximately 180 words a minute, and between 160, 180 words a minute. And many times we may talk too fast or we may not talk long enough. We also analyze everything about that presentation, and then we're able to look at the results after artificial intelligence looks at all of this and gives us a reading on how that employee, that service tech, that salesperson is performing in the field with their sales presentations.
That is so cool. So
it's technology. It's technology.
Automatic. You'll give them a blueprint. All they have to do is go bum 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 bum. Hit the points. Be personable.
Yeah. I just attended a conference last week in San Diego, and Rilla was doing a presentation there and showing some of the things. They have analyzed 54,000. That's right, 54,000 sales presentations. They have analyzed and came up with the numbers of what you need to do in order to have successful sales. What the most successful people are doing is rolled out by the artificial intelligence that is running through this system that you can learn how to be better. Again, it takes people that want to be better and looking at the AI influence in here. But you probably shocked that I'm talking about artificial intelligence running through, and this is to a chimney sweep that's going into a customer's house. This is probably something you weren't expecting to hear.
I love it. I love it. Sales is sales, and if you can be better at it and hit all your points and have less questions needed and just be so compelling, then sign here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So anyway, but say, you've got to have, you can have great sales, but you can have sloppy operations. to where you're not working efficiently. So you're selling a lot of product, but at the same time, you're not making any profit because of the inefficiencies. That's why you've got to put together a system to track and measure every single day. We also work on a process called lean. And lean is where you go through the process of making every day a little bit better tomorrow. How do you conserve time? When you look at it, one of the companies that is best known for lean operations is Toyota. Toyota became the #1 producer of automobiles some years ago. And they were doing some really unique things. And this is kind of an amazing story when you look at this. So some American manufacturers, they went to Japan to visit Toyota, and they saw how Toyota had made their system so efficient, the way warehousing was done, the way that they had the system up that basically you could train a monkey to build a Toyota. Okay, that's how efficient they had made their entire system. And they were asking them when they get done, well, where did y'all learn all these manufacturing techniques? And the answer will blow your mind. They said, we read Henry Ford's book.
Woo!
We read Henry Ford's book because Henry Ford was one of the, when you look at it, Henry Ford did some really crazy things in business. Number one, he basically invented the assembly line for manufacturing automobiles. Before Henry Ford had the assembly line, cars were made individually, which took a lot more time. So he made it where cars rolled off the assembly line in certain times. Henry Ford also raised the wages of his workers tremendously. Yeah, I think it was almost double of what he was paying his people to get better production. And Henry Ford became the leading producers of automobiles in the 20s. But Henry Ford had a problem. Henry Ford did not like to listen to other people. Henry Ford thought that every car needed to be black.
Oh,
Henry Ford, if you look, all those old cars, they were always black in those days.
I remember.
Henry Ford also, that some of his engineers came to him with a new design for a car when he was making Model Ts. And they said it made Mr. Ford so mad that he took a hammer and completely destructed the model.
Oh,
Unreal. Tell you something else about Henry Ford. Henry Ford was basically the father of charcoal grills in America. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Okay. And this is how this came about. Henry Ford was making a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Back in those days, cars used a lot of wood. So when you had a lot of wood and you were sawing it up, you produced a whole lot of sawdust, right?
Right?
So he was out there and they had this sawdust just piled up at the Ford manufacturing plant. So Henry and Thomas Edison and his cousin were walking around looking at that sawdust one day and trying to come up with, what do we do with that sawdust? And they found out about something called a charcoal briquette that was invented in the 1890s, I believe 1891, by Edwin Zwoller. And it was an artificial charcoal made out of sawdust, combining it with coal and some other chemicals. And they came up to the conclusion that they could turn that sawdust into charcoal. And back in the 1920s, Henry actually gave a charcoal grill that was standard on every Ford automobile and provided the charcoal. And then when the people needed more charcoal, they had to go to the Ford dealership to get the charcoal. So what he did, he had people coming back into his plant to buy the charcoal. Well, the charcoal took off and it did a fantastic job of doing the charcoal. So anyway, it was so successful that he gave the charcoal plant to his cousin. Okay. And the cousin name was Kingsford. Hence, Kingsford charcoal.
Ba-dum-bum.
So it's unreal. When you look back at it, I'm a big history student, and it's really unreal when you look at the way things transpired through history, but also how things change through history and how we lose what we're doing. If we look at, there's a prime example, the McDonald's Corporation. And you look at it. Have you ever done any research on McDonald's? Have you ever watched the movie The Founder, Cynthia?
I don't think I've seen The Founder. I
The,
did a report once though on fast food, and I went
okay.
to a new McDonald's around here, and their kitchen is amazing.
Yeah.
It's top of the line. And Dan Altmeyer, and the charcoal was black too.
Yeah. That's exactly right, Dan. That's the coal in it. So anyway, the McDonald brothers started making hamburgers and McDonald's
There
out in
could be black too.
California. Yeah. So anyway, they had a system. It's called the Speedy Food System. And they served 4 items. They served hamburgers, they served drinks, they served French fries, and they had milkshakes. So the God, what's his name? Got it started. The ball got out there. The name just slipped my mind. Okay, but he went out there, saw this. Ray Kroc. So Ray Kroc was selling milkshake machines. He went to California, met the McDonald brothers, got them to agree to franchise McDonald's. But the story got kind of bad from there because he ended up stealing the company from them years later and didn't ever pay them what they were supposed to. But then one of the McDonald brothers confessed one day that Ray Kroc made them famous, made them rich because they invested the money into the McDonald's Corporation that Ray Kroc did. So they were major stockholders in the McDonald's Corporation later on, is a story I've heard.
I hope that redeems them.
Yeah.
You worked with Jeffrey Gitomer and John Maxwell.
Yes, I did.
What are their coaching philosophies? How do they influence yours? Because you said all about being good mentors.
Yeah,
We have
well,
so many in our lives.
Yeah, with Jeffrey, it was more about sales. When you went, I was in Jeffrey's first class that was about coaching. He started this class. I had become a coach a couple years before that, and I knew that I needed some type of certification. So Jeffrey's located in Charlotte. It's about 20 minutes to his house. He lives in the old Lance factory over in Charlotte, if you ever been there.
All those condos all together.
Yep. That's the old one. Yeah, that's the Lance Cracker Plants where he lives down almost in Charlotte, almost downtown Charlotte.
Did it get hit by the storm?
Do what now?
Did that get hit by the storm? I hope not.
No. Storm was like 50 miles west of here.
Okay.
So anyway, I heard that Jeffrey Gitomer was putting on this course. So I signed up, sent my check, and went to that course for a couple of days and learned Jeffrey's principles, which are very good sales principles. That's the whole thing. The principles of sales have been out there for years. We look at it, and there's really nothing new that people do. If they would just stay with the basics that have been out there for years, the basics of what Zig Ziglar taught, what Gitomer taught, other people. Now, going with the John Maxwell training, this was more of a leadership course. How to train to be a leader. And that's where I learned a lot of things in there and got licensed to teach all of the Maxwell books, the Maxwell processes, Maxwell courses. I was licensed to do that. I've been licensed. I think Maxwell. I've been certified by Maxwell since about 2016, and Jeffrey was back around 2012.
Excellent. You train clients across the United States. How do you tailor your coaching for each unique business?
I'll find out what they need, what does that client need, and then we build the program that fits that client's needs. No two clients are alike. No has the same needs. So we're going to tailor the program to what the client needs and how can we best assist that client.
How long do you keep your clients? Do you have them for life?
Some of them I have for years. Some of them are short term. We may be in a relationship for 6 months to a year. I have some that have been clients for 10 to 12 years now. It depends on the individual. Depends if they continue to see the value in me.
What do you see as the future in the chimney service industry, and how are you preparing for it?
The chimney service industry is changing dramatically because of emission standards, because there is a switch away from wood-fired energy, gas-fired energy. When you look at it, a lot of people are pushing towards electrification, where we're seeing electric heating systems, we're seeing electric fireplaces. So we're seeing a change in that. We're seeing a change in the emission laws. That's been going on for probably 30 years now, where EPA has come into the game. They're monitoring wood smoke emission in different parts of the country. Where you and I live, we don't see it that bad. If we get west of the Rockies, then we'll start seeing a whole lot of stuff that is where EPA is still making a lot of changes there.
Alex says hello too. You're known for your work with standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
Why are SOPs so crucial for the businesses?
SOPs are crucial because it gives each team member a documented process to follow. No matter if you're building widgets, if you're working in an office, having a documented system enables you to bring people in and put them into a productive and efficient position much more faster. It also comes as a way to monitor your operations. I have a little saying that when there's a mistake, there are 3 reasons why a mistake occurs. You want to take a shot at what those 3 reasons are?
Let's see. You didn't listen to the customer. You didn't educate who was doing the job the way the customer wanted it. And you didn't have the right parts.
Okay. Number 1, there is no system. There is no documented system, and that covers everything you just said. Number 2, the documented system is wrong. Number 3, someone did not follow that system. And if they don't follow the system, it could be because the way the system is written, it may not be comprehensible to that person. Or perhaps they weren't trained in how to do that particular task. So they don't use when I say comprehend, you could have written something in there that you know what it means, but other people don't know. So you've got to make sure they're written in a way that every human being can understand these SOPs. But in business, you'll always find it falls down to those 3 things, such as in doing this interview with you. You had a system. We followed the system. You sent me the invitation the other day. You asked me for a photo. You asked me for a bio. You followed that up with another email. And about 15 minutes before we went live, you sent me a message on Facebook, said, I'm just checking to make sure that you have this link. That's a system that you developed. That's in your head. But if you had someone else that came to work for you, you've got to explain all of these things unless you have your systems documented and written down. And like I said, I've written 2 books that involve SOPs. One is standardizing standard operating procedures, and the second one is where did the profit go? So in both of those books, we actually detail the process of how to write SOPs for the company. How do you do them? How do you people access them? How do you store them? Those type of things.
And his books are available on Amazon, and his website, Eric will put up, because we have the same systems and the same SOPs. Lastly, what advice would you give to someone just starting out in their business journey?
If you're just starting out in your business journey, number 1, develop your strategic plan. Develop a business plan. Number 2, how are you going to end this business? Are you building this business to sell? Are you building this business as an investment? Are you building this business where someone else can run it for you and you're going to be there? Number 3, how are you going to fund the business? How are you going to do this? Because you're going to have to likely buy inventory, make payroll, other things. So those are the three things I would follow. And also, how are you going to build the documented systems where your employees follow the systems?
Got
So
it.
it's actually a combination of things.
Jillian Baldwin asks, is the electric sustainable?
Is it sustainable? As long when you say sustainable, that could be up in the air. How is the electricity produced? That's a big thing. We have to use energy to produce electricity. It's just like battery operated cars. It takes energy to build an electric car. So when you say sustainable, it's sustainable as long as the power's on. If the power ain't on, your electric fireplace ain't going to produce a whole lot.
Thanks for joining, Jillian. It's a good question.
It was. I've never even been asked that question before. Is electric sustainable? That's pretty good.
I had a wood burning fireplace for many, 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 many years. In fact, I miss Mr. Poland, my wood guy, who would come and drop off a truck of load of wood for me.
Well,
Uh,
this is the whole thing. I used to have a little motto that I use about when I was in the actual retail business that was developed by the Hard Products Association of probably 25 years ago. And it was a marketing tagline. And it went like this: there's nothing better than coming home from a cold day in a hard world than fire, because fire works. Fire, and go further, fire gives us a sense of comfort. Fire gives us a sense of romance. Okay? It does. I mean, when you think of fire and sitting there with a glass of wine, a cup of coffee, a person that you feel tight, that you feel very in love with, have an attachment to, Cynthia, don't magic things happen?
Absolutely. Ooh. Yes, that's why I put a fireplace up for your interview this evening, Mr. Jerry.
Yes, it does. And you know what else? I'm gonna tell you something. That's so that's gas logs in your photo.
Oh, well, thank you. I have gas logs in my home now too,
Yeah, so
and
do
it
I.
still works. It still gives you the ambiance. I do miss my wood burning fireplace, Jillian. I have to admit. However, I took care of my dad in my home for 7 years. And I couldn't have the smoke in there anymore. My ventilation system wasn't strong enough. Oh, Eric, the music. Of course, there's music.
Of course. The thing is, and that's what a lot of people gas fireplaces. We have very efficient gas fireplaces now that can heat up to 2,500 to 3,000 square foot homes. So you can heat a large area with a gas fireplace if it's a properly designed that's designed to give you heat.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's so easy to turn on. I don't miss cleaning out the fireplace every Sunday.
Yeah.
So, Jerry, as we wind up here, what legacy would you like to leave for your family? You've got a pretty good one going. Anything you want to add to it?
My idea of a legacy is that people remember that you did something for them, that you made a difference in their life, that whenever you're gone from God's green earth and you're no longer here, that people will say, you know, that guy made a difference. That guy made a difference. That would be what I would want to leave as a legacy. Does that make sense?
It's perfect, and it just fits in so well with warm and cozy fireplaces
Mm-hmm.
and having good business sense so that you can do your business. And I like that second one. Think about how you're going to end the business. What is your
Well, you should always, a successful business is always built where it has a value of sale, because this is a big problem. A lot of people operate a business for years and then they decide it's time to retire. And they think that the business is going to be worth all this money. I can retire, I can be on Easy Street. And the business, when it's actually appraised, it's not worth that much.
because they're the part of it that made it go. It's there. It's them. They
Correct.
can't leave
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. They are such an integral part into that they can do there. I mean, I learned one time years ago when I was going through my financial issues back in the early part, because the bank came to me one day and they said, Jerry, you're going to have a life insurance policy on you, and we're going to become the beneficiary because is we feel like if something happens to you, we're not going to get paid. So I had to take out a life insurance policy, make the bank the beneficiary. That insurance policy had two commas in it, so you'll know how much money we're talking about here. And I had to pay a monthly premium on an insurance policy because the amount of money that I owed the bank.
Whew.
That's what I tell people. When you want to know when you're too deep in debt, is when you have to have an insurance policy and the bank's the beneficiary.
I have never heard of that before.
Yep.
Oh, Julian, I love that statement, Jerry. Servant heart.
Thank you very much, Jillian. Appreciate you being here tonight.
We've had a wonderful audience. We enjoy you so much. Thank you so much for joining the Cynthia Manion Show Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jerry has a podcast as well, and you meet once a week as well.
Yeah, we do ours. It is called the CVC Home Service Success Network. We do live at 12 noon Eastern Time on Fridays, unless like last week I didn't do one because Friday I was in California at a training seminar. But we usually do every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time. But it's also up on it stays up on Facebook. It stays up on YouTube. It stays up on, and it goes into my website. So if you go to the website, you can find all of my past podcasts, broadcasts, whatever you want to call them, on the website. And we also turn them all into podcasts. So you'll find them on our podcast channels, which are on most of the popular podcast channels.
And if you are in the chimney business or the hearth business, those podcasts and those talks that he has are very deep. He goes into detail. You can really learn a lot.
Yeah, we bring on some guests every once in a while. We've had a lot of very top name people. Gittimer's been a guest. I've had Scott McCain on. I've had Larry Wingate as a guest. I've had Tom Ziegler. A lot of people. Randy Pennington. So we've had a lot of great guests on our library of podcasts over the years.
Because it's leadership and coaching and raising yourself up and raising your mentors and the people that you hang around with.
Yeah, we're approaching our 300th episode, so we've been doing this for a few years now.
Excellent. We have to ask Eric what number you are. I'm in the upper 30s, low 40s now, having such a good time. Because Jared, we have never had a conversation like this.
No, oh really?
It's been wonderful having you. Thank you so much. I truly, truly enjoyed it.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Cynthia. It's an honor. It's a privilege and it's a pleasure. If you ever like me to come back, hey, let me know. If you don't want to ever have me come back, that's fine also, okay? I can take rejection.
Well, I was thinking that next time you come through the beautiful state of Maryland or in the Washington, D.C. area, we have lunch or dinner, depending on your schedule.
You got it. We'll do it.
Okay, I look forward to it. We'll make the date. If you meet me back in the green room, we can discuss that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. See you next week. Make good choices.